Welcome back to The Great Journey.
The
Great
journey.
There are 6 friends dedicated to re-exploring the vast universe of Halo, one installment at a time. We're covering the books, graphic novels, films, and of course the games, and we'll be discussing, learning, and reminiscing along the way. Charlie's my name, and I'll be your humble host this episode. With me is the regular cast of cohorts, Tom, Jim, James, and Robbie. We were just notified of Will's vessel and an aborted slipspace jump. We're working to establish contact ASAP. That said, welcome back, everybody. How are we enjoying Contact Harvest thus far?
This is a fun book.
Really good.
Yeah.
Things are getting very interesting.
You weren't with us last week. What'd you think of the? Or let me ask, did you notice anything interesting? Any reveal that was shocking?
I feel like this was another trivia question. A reveal that was interesting. I don't know. I really liked the Dadab, my boy Dadab, and Lighter Than Some, and their buddy cop dynamic going on. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was definitely cool. We all agreed that the
That's a good favorite.
Covenant chapters
Mhm.
are awesome. So, but no, there was an even bigger reveal that somebody lives in your part of the country might have.
Oh yes, Avery from the Greater Chicago Industrial Zone.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah, I think he was from like the South Side, from what I could figure out.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
Yeah, I think they mentioned Cottage Grove and Blackstone Avenue
I think they call it Halstead too. He was going to a bar in Halstead.
in Halton. Okay, yeah,
Yeah, it was just cool.
yeah.
Wasn't expecting that, and one of major characters in the franchise is just cool to hear about our hometown.
Yeah.
All right. For a little refresh from last episode, we read the prologue and the first 6 chapters of Contact Harvest. We were introduced to Sergeant Johnson and saw firsthand effects of the insurrection. We also met an opportunistic crew of jackals and their deacon grunt Dadab, which were scouring the galaxy for forerunner artifacts. As they follow the trail leading towards Planet Harvest, they come into first contact with humanity. All the while, the AI Sif tries to investigate the mysterious loss of human freighters. Now, before we proceed, it's time we bring back our everyone's favorite segment entitled Questions and Corrections. As the name implies, this is our chance to get any unresolved questions answered and or correct anything we might have said in error.
We should change the name of this to just be actually.
Okay. This is a segment entitled Actually. We are but humans and we don't claim to be Halo experts here. We're learning as we go along and we want to get the facts straight. So, that said, we're going to start with a correction. We had stated that Johnson was on an assassination mission when he arrived to Harvest. So, reading verbatim from the book, quote, Avery just nodded his head. Like most of his missions, his hit on Harvest was classified, and he had no idea what sort of clearance that Corpsman had. So, basically, after getting some more insight on chapters that we read for this episode, I just want to make the distinction that it's not specifically an assassination mission. Additionally, it asked last episode how the minor transgressions crew happened upon the second human freighter, which was named This End Up. Again, to quote the book, quote, the shipmastress uncurled a claw toward the holotank. There was a single glyph not located on the alien planet. To the untrained eye, it might have looked like some sort of display error, a misplaced piece of data. But Shuriar's pirate gaze recognized it for what it was, a relic aboard another of the alien freighters, one she hoped would be as easy to capture as the first. Basically, they noticed a relic on board that second freighter, and they basically went towards that first available target. So, anyone have anything else? Okay.
I know nothing. Yeah.
No, nothing. All right, let's then with that, we're going to hop over to our discussions. Start off with a twofer. We're going to go chapter 7 and chapter 8. So, chapter 7. Johnson trains the new recruits of the colonial militia and appears less than impressed with their conditioning. Meanwhile, Captain Ponder invites Johnson to the annual solstice celebration at the Harvest Parliament building, where they meet Harvest Governor Nils Thune. Over the course of the night, we learn that Harvest has a mass driver cannon on the planet, as well as the background story of Sif and Mac's contentiousness. Johnson is then introduced to the Department of Commercial Shipping representative Jillian Alsigny. When they are alone, she reveals to be a secret agent for ONI Section 3. He announces their orders, and Johnson, Byrne, and Alsigny will be shipping out shortly. Chapter 8. The minor transgressions crew begin to commandeer their next human target, another stranded freighter. That'd be the third one, I believe. However, they board the vessel and walk directly into a trap. Johnson and Byrne were lying in wait, outfitted with new ONI-supplied weapons. Having expected insurgents, they are surprised to see aliens emerge into the hold. Signy requests one to be kept alive, and the pair dispatches the Kigyar crew, as Churiyar escapes back to her ship. He finds that Dad betrayed her in her absence and reattached the Luminary. In a final act of defiance, she blows apart the vessel just as Johnson was going for her capture. Meanwhile, Dadab and Lighter Than Some make their escape back home in the ship's escape pod. So, what do we think?
A lot. Action-packed. A lot going on.
Action.
Starting with Chapter 7, we kind of get a glimpse into surface life aboard the surface planet Harvest. And I think, importantly, we find out that there's some sort of mass driver cannon that they're using on the surface of the planet. They're using it to blow off, fireworks or something in the celebration or something.
Yeah, and they mentioned that Mac had launched one of those, a Mac driver projectile, really close to Sif at some point, like early on. And that
that's right.
could be a reason why Sif, well, we see some more later on, but that could be a reason why she doesn't like, quote unquote, doesn't like Mac, at least initially.
That's definitely what they explained, what started their fight, essentially, was, I think, like you said, Mac shot a round into basically what sounded like her processor area or something, and basically could have killed her. I'm trying to look up again why he did that.
I think I found the paragraph here. It said, this is when they're at the ball. Peterson, the Attorney General, said Peterson proceeded to explain how, not long after the DCS installed SIF in the Tierra, there had been a critical failure in her data center's power supply. This forced her technicians to stop all activity in her strands or risk a load imbalance that would have collapsed the entire system. It had been a serious crisis, and Mac decided to solve it by using a driver to boost the new power supply into orbit. So I guess he shot the power supply directly into her.
That's what it was.
Power core.
Yeah. They restored her power, but she learned that Mac could have easily obliterated her data center, and she was, quote, not amused. So, yeah.
But he was just trying to help the person he loves.
Yeah, sorry, darling.
Sorry, darling. Oh, yeah. Tom, are you reading or are you listening to audiobook? We need to settle this right now.
No, I'm reading.
Okay, in the audiobook, Mac is voiced with a country accent. Country Mac, if you will.
That makes sense. Yeah, I would expect nothing less.
The audiobook this time around is very well produced.
Yeah, it is really good.
Also, anybody notice that when Avery is at the party, he's just seriously judging every single person's handshake?
I mean, what else would a strictly military kind of person do?
Don't act like you don't judge some handshakes here and there.
Oh, sure.
Gotta be wet and clammy. Those are the best ones.
Let's see, moving on to Chapter 8. Straight up, basically very first few paragraphs of this chapter explain that they went on that last freighter where they kill the human. They were there because it showed a relic on it, correct?
Hmm.
Then when they got in there, the luminary didn't show any relic anymore. So I just wanted to bring that up because it was an interesting or intriguing, you know, why it's
So I
suddenly.
have an idea about that. It could be wildly stupid, but I think so. They found the luminary found thousands upon thousands. I think it said of relics on the planet Harvest,
Right.
and then they found one or two like on the ship, and then they scoured the alien ship. They found no relics. I think it's because the relics are humans. That's my guess.
Ooh.
Ooh.
That's interesting.
So after he died, right, they killed all the people on the ship died, right? So they killed the one pilot, and then they searched the ship and they couldn't find any more relics.
That's it's a big theory there.
No, that is really interesting. Hence why, I mean, we know that Harvest ends up pinging a lot for them. I am curious, like, is a luminary, how specific is it, right? Because for the next vessel in chapter 8, right, there's 2 humans on it. Like, can they tell that's 2, or is it just like kind of like a glow of like there's something here?
That's a good question. I don't know, but that also might explain why the Covenant think humans are like blasphemous and must be eradicated. Because I don't know, maybe they think that we've like bastardized or commandeered some forerunner tech in a way that it's not supposed to be, or it just doesn't line up with their vision of forerunner tech.
Yeah, for radiating the aura, but they don't find any
Mhm.
relics.
Some big sloppy
Interesting.
hypothesis coming out
Yeah.
right now.
Real floppy.
Big
Real
if true.
Yeah,
Very
big
big
if
if
I,
true.
I'll drink the
big if
juice. I'll
true.
believe in this one.
I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense if the ship that they pointed out was the one ship that was manned by a captain earlier, or manned by a human. Yeah, that I think that tracks.
Exactly.
Yeah, because all the other ships, most of them are automated, right? And they were of no interest to him. So that is very interesting. That yeah, good, good, good thought. I like it.
Another cool little tidbit gleaned from this chapter was that Johnson said something along the lines that like he was provided these new weapons from Alsigny. So basically Oni supplied him these new weapons that he never had before. And that included the battle rifle. So basically the battle rifle was just kind of like engineered by ONI and is new to the conflict, I guess. Is kind of cool little tidbit of lore.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a little hard to believe. Like throughout history, they haven't created a burst rifle before. But I assume we're talking
Specific one
about
that
this
we,
specific model. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Hey, it makes sense. It's a great gun. I give props to Oni for making it.
Well, burst headshot and good to go. All right. On that note, are we good to go and proceed?
Well,
Proceed.
anybody else found it a little funny that just first contact was they just decided to kill each other? Like both sides didn't stop to think like, oh, maybe we'll try to like communicate. Just like, nope, we're gonna shoot each
Plan.
other. Yeah.
Well, I think Johnson and Byron, right? Like they're going into this as someone has killed or at least commandeered another human occupied vessel, right? So they're going doing it as like already hostile mindsets. So I
True.
could see how they're like, oh, this is that's just fucking weird.
Plus, to a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So they're not sending in like a diplomat; they're sending in a highly trained soldier.
That's true, right? Yeah.
So he's not much of a negotiator.
Yeah. If first contact wasn't the jackals, if the jackals hadn't like run into these people first, maybe it could have been a different outcome. Who knows?
Yeah,
I'd probably
probably not though, knowing
also
what we know about the Covenant.
I'd probably also freak out if I just find out that there's just some giant lizards in spacesuits and glowing weapons just coming towards me, I'd probably figure there's no
Yeah.
chance of
Yeah, that's
communicating with
something
them.
too, right? Like, they
That's fair.
clearly have some type of device that probably isn't just for communicating, in their hands kind of thing, so you could also expect potential retaliation or violence from them too.
Well, actually, that wasn't even the first shot fired in this whole conflict. If you really
Yeah.
want to take it back, it was actually rock thrown from Hergok. We said that last week, but
No, that's true,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
Lighter than some
even
killed
lighter than
the
some
pilot.
just murdering people over. Hey, if
Yeah.
they sent lighter than some in there, I mean, Johnson might have been killed. We don't know. They didn't send
Yeah.
their best warrior in there.
yeah, screw battle rifles.
Said they trusted him and Dab Dab messing around with the luminary.
Yeah, or lighter than some's got a 1-for-1 KD ratio right here. One
Sure does.
is a 1-0.
1 and
1-0.
0, bro. He didn't die.
100%.
It's a couple more to get on that killing spree.
All right, let's proceed. No one else has got anything to say. Move on to chapter 9, the beginning of part 2 of the novel. On board the Covenant Homeworld High Charity, an elderly San Shayum, that's the name for the race of prophets, whom is known as the Minister of Fortitude, begins his day. As he commutes to his station, we are introduced to a lot of the backstory of the Covenant and its religion, the mobile capital of High Charity, and the history of the relationship between the San Shayum and the Sangheili. Fortitude is then visited by another prophet known as the Vice Minister of Tranquility, very interesting names here, who reveals the data transmitted from the luminary on board minor transgressions. Still secret information reveals the existence of thousands of new Forerunner relics, and the pair of them conspire a plan to use this opportunity to ascend to hierarch status. Start, if I may. There's a ton of background info on the Covenant provided in this chapter. We have the basis of the Covenant religion and who can be a part of it. They talked about a war fought between the elites and prophets, and it was based on what they believed Forerunner relics and what they should do with them, essentially. They talked about the city of High Charity is actually built around and powered by a Forerunner dreadnought. Interesting. They even talked about a conspiracy by the Jackals to poison grunt counterparts to prevent them from repopulating, and that caused a all-out Ungoi rebellion. There was a shit ton of background Covenant knowledge just slammed into this chapter. What do you guys think of this one?
The Minister of Fortitude had smoked too much. Never again, he vowed. As the first
We've all
line.
been there. We've all been there. Dude, I smoked way too much. What the fuck?
I also love how it was the Minister of Fortitude would smoke too much.
Right? Not so much then, huh?
Anyways, yes, this was like a fascinating chapter. It was packed with so much information. I have a highlighter and I'm like highlighting like almost every word in every paragraph.
Yeah. Anything you want to highlight or talk about?
I'll let somebody else go first. I mentioned my highlight, my favorite.
I highlighted all of on page 143, half of page 144. That talked about the war essentially that happened between the elites and the prophets. So anyone want to jump in? What'd you guys think? Any points you want to talk about?
Was it kind of also in this chapter that they kind of mentioned that the elites were they kind of made the grunts better, basically like trained them how to use weapons and kind of fight to be better than just like cannon fodder, I think was the word they used.
Yeah, I think they said that they were actually like functional infantry, which sounds like it was a recent thing. It sounds like.
Well, yeah, so from what I understand, you got to back up on that. And there was this rebellion of the grunts. They rebelled and they basically took over like parts of High Charity. That's when the elites were like, whoa, these guys can actually fight. Then you got to even go back from there and realize the reason the grunts were rebelling was because jackals deliberately poisoned them so they wouldn't keep repopulating. They said that grunts were
Right.
were just repopulating so quickly that they were essentially pushing out jackals and where they lived and stuff. So then they ended up poisoning them. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, you really get the sense that the Covenant, there's a lot more fractures and it's a lot more fragile than it seems just from humanity's side. Humanity's side, it just seems like this, cohesive juggernaut. But it seems like there's really a lot of issues and complexities in their society.
That's fair.
I mean, I would say it draws similarities to human society and problems and things like that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, humans have done
Yep.
population control before. It is very interesting, that aspect. I mean, even in this chapter, if we're gonna call it out, they literally talk about how Mr. Fortitude had a crazy night before and was smoking hookah and all this other, again, similarities to relaxation and things that humans would be doing too. Like, I found that
Mhm.
pretty funny and interesting.
It was just a cool look into the workings of Covenant. We're pretty early on this journey of ours, and we're already stopping in on High Charity, realizing what that's all about. So
Yeah, I did
Yeah,
not expect to see any Covenant chapters in this book, let alone High Charity.
yeah, I really appreciate that insight and a little bit more like bringing some humanity towards like how I would picture the Covenant and their interactions and things of that sort. Make it a little bit more,
It's some nice depth.
yeah,
Mhm.
but also something you can like believe and understand, and again, makes it more relatable.
they definitely give these leaders human traits and human qualities in the way that like they see an opportunity here with this luminary information they have, and they're going to try to use it to sounds like try to usurp the existing high profits. So this is just like a theme of this sort of conspiracy going on, that is, you know it's more human, I guess. It's like a human sort of quality, again showing, like Tom said, that there's definitely fractures politically in this covenant. So
Yeah, I thought the ages were interesting too. Like they're in an age of doubt, which are about dealing with fallout of previous chaotic periods, which in the previous period was the age of 39th age of conflict, which was the Ungoy Rebellion. And then now this vice minister of tranquility is basically proposing a whole new age, which it sounds like you kind of have to, like, it sounded like new ages and new hierarchs go hand in hand. Like if you wanted to stage some sort of political coup and become a hierarch, you kind of needed something to claim a new age almost.
so if there was a war in the age of conflict, and we're currently in the age of doubt, are you saying that it's kind of a theme that might foreshadow sort of things?
Could be.
No.
It says he wants to dawn a new age of reclamation,
Reclamation.
which I'm assuming is reclaiming relics, which is why the what they want to use to do that is the evidence of like thousands of relics from this luminary.
That's a good pickup, I think. Got to get through the age of doubt first, though.
Anyway, yeah. Anyways, I agree. Just like the political intrigue in here is interesting. Also, one last thing. Did we get the first mention of the Great Journey in this episode or in this chapter?
How did we miss that?
Oh my
I think
God, the great
I think
journey.
it's
You guys missed
The
Tom saying it
great
too.
journey.
Everybody's
The
sleeping.
great journey.
sorry. Sorry, audio listeners, but I think it's page 140.
Read it out.
Okay.
Read
This
the
is
scripture.
after he is you know, saying never again, never drinking again, and getting his his tea medicine sort of thing. He says, and yet the minister mused, already starting to feel some relief just from the remedy's scent. When the great journey begins, we will all walk the path together.
A great journey.
A great
A
journey.
great journey.
You're right. There we go. Good catch, Tom. That's a big one.
One time I'm gonna add on to that. It says this direct quote from the covenant scripture summarized the faith's core premise. Those who showed appropriate reverence for the forerunners and their sacred creations inevitably share a moment of transcendence, world journey beyond the boundaries of the known universe, just as the forerunners had many ages ago. So it is important, I guess, to define what this journey is all about.
Yeah, good add on.
Alrighty. Let's continue on here. Move it to chapter 10 and 11. Chapter 10. While unconscious, Johnson dreams of the orchards of harvest burning. Awakens in a hospital and is immediately questioned by Al Signey and Governor Thune. Although he stresses the ferocity and dominating nature of the new alien species and their technology, he's surprised that Harvest's official plan of action is to do nothing. Johnson confides in Al Signey, who is just as appalled, and accepts that for the immediate future, they're on their own and need to mount an inevitable defense of the planet. Agreeing to keep the parts about the first alien contact classified, Johnson, Byrne, and Ponder work together to ramp up the malicious training. Chapter 11. Meanwhile, Sif obsesses over the clues revealed from recent activities. She pieces together that Al Signey is likely ONI, that Johnson and Byrne's freighter came into contact with something outside of the human experience. Just then, Mac requests her presence and she surprisingly accepts. Meeting in his data center, Mac reveals data showing exactly what transpired in orbit, thus confirming Sif's suspicions. She asks how he got this information, but in order to answer, he pushes her to prove her trust in him. Doing so, Sif enters Mac's core processor, and learns that he's in fact made up of two. Having evolved from Planet Harvest's colony vessel, Mac is also a ship AI known as Loki. Loki is equipped with planetary security intelligence. Explaining that the two entities can only function one at a time, Mac and Sif agree that Loki is the best chance for Harvest survival. Thus, Sif agrees to help out in any way she can.
I thought it was just kind of interesting in general. Kind of how described like the AI's thought process, kind of like her being pushed by her algorithms to do something, or going with her core. It just felt like an interesting way on how to humanize how the AI actually acts.
Definitely agree. I think it's really well written how they kind of move in between or, visit each other, or she looks at his essentially the core of what makes up Mac, and it's these two like distinct centers in his processing room, or I don't know what you want to call it, but yeah, it's cool how he kind of writes it in a way that is a little easier to understand and also kind of picture instead of just saying, it's just data flying around or something like that. So
Yeah. Instead of saying in 1/10 of a second, she was able to calculate all this. Now it kind of humanized it.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was pretty cool, and you could see like the different parts of her. Like they had different names, like her code, her algorithms, like her core. Like you could definitely feel like there are different thoughts in her head, just like we've got different thoughts that pop up in our brains telling us to do different things. I thought it was really cool the way you wrote that.
I mean, depending on how many voices you're hearing, Tom, you might want to talk to someone about that.
And it was interesting that eventually to go into Mac's core processor, she just like basically ignored all what her algorithms are saying. She's just like kind of went for it, which kind of seems more like a human kind of gut feeling kind of thing instead of like following any logic.
I agree. On that, anyone feel like this was leading to a different sort of path? Like I thought it was almost kind of like like a sabotage or like she's walking into a trap sort of feeling at first. I was curious if anyone thought that.
Yeah, I kind of got that feeling too.
Yeah, I kind of just thought that it was kind of maybe Mac was just like noticed something was up too that didn't bring right on Harvest, and kind of wanted to see if Sif was kind of thinking the same thing, kind of being AIs in it together.
Do you think they're going, at least Sif, do you think they're going rampant?
No, I think that they understand the threat that they're facing, and like the synopsis kind of said was that Mac can essentially be this other AI that would probably be more beneficial to protecting the planet, and we're going to work together, I guess, to protect the planet, I guess. I think they're pretty lucid right now in understanding the situation that they're in. But it's also kind of surprising that if Mac or Loki, whoever, whatever you want to call it, if he was original to like Planet Harvest, the very first colony ship that arrived, I have to do a little research. Maybe that's a thing for next episode. Um, when was Harvest colonized? Because how old then would he be? You know, if these smart AI are not supposed to live that long, I guess how does that work? You know?
Good point. I mean, is he kind of a smart AI, like kind of a closer to the Cortana smart AI, or kind of more like a Deja? I'd kind of lean like it's kind of like a Deja.
Yeah. Well,
I thought Deja lived for a while.
I guess that's true. Again, I think we might have touched on this last season where there's a difference between a smart AI like Cortana, that I guess can go rampant. So
I think I started the discussion, skipped right into chapter 11, forgetting that we are also glossing over chapter 10. Johnson's dream was a little I mean, you could tell that that whole diner situation still haunts him, and will probably haunt him for a while, since this is kind of like the second time we've kind of been experienced it with him.
right, this time specifically, it sounded like or imagery was things burning up, which might be foreshadowing it in a way, possibly. I don't know, but
Mm.
I guess a point that I would throw out from chapter 10 would be that in order to contact Reach, they have to send these messages on outbound slip space vessels. It still takes like a month to get back to Reach. So they said that the governor didn't want to do anything, but he'd only be putting that timeline further back. So Signy sounds like she's going to send out, or maybe she did send out, like notice to ONI, but it would take a month to get back to ONI, and then a whole month for them to come back. So you're kind of looking, I guess, timeline wise, 2 months that you're on your own out there, kind of building up that sort of blissness. Or
Yeah, they're on their own for now.
Harvest was kind of like the end of like the farthest colony, right?
I believe so, and we could check on that.
I mean, that's still crazy. Whole month to get communication. Kind of surprising that there's only help Signy there. Like there's not any more Oni people just on Harvest, or maybe there are and we haven't uncovered them yet.
Possibly, I would say that her her being there was to, I guess, fight off insurrectionists, but it sounded like there wasn't too much insurrectionist activity going on at Harvest. I mean, they didn't even have their own protection. The governor said here that he didn't want any military authority there. He had to vote and convince Parliament to fund this small militia that Byrne and Johnson are now training. So they're clearly not a militant colony.
Real.
I guess that is to say, like, Oni maybe not so interested in harvest up until this point. So
Yeah, but I mean, let's think about this realistically. Like, the people in harvest government, that's pretty stupid, right? Like, okay, you come across this advanced alien race, and you're gonna say, "Oh, this little small arms group we're gonna put together shall hold back a alien race that is at least as advanced as we are, if not more advanced." Like, I don't know.
yeah, I don't agree with it at all.
Pretty,
Okay. I just thought of something kind of along that. Am I correct in thinking that Abe Johnson and Byrne were brought over there to kind of train this militia because they thought insurrectionists were attacking because of those missing ships that the what's it called, minor transgressions were attacking?
I thought this is after content though.
Yeah,
Like, they know about the alien.
Yeah, right. But I'm saying, like, weren't they called to go to harvest because they thought that these missing ships, because of the covenant, were thought to be potentially insurrectionists?
Right. Them training the militia sounds to me more of like a cover story to then investigate these disappearances on these vessels, I guess.
Right. And what I'm saying is doesn't seem like the covenant were out there that long. That seems kind of crazy that a month to send somebody out and come back. I don't know. It just seemed like they got there. Kind of following what I'm saying. I don't know if I'm really explaining my thought process quite right.
like the timing doesn't line up. Like
Well, it
some
seems like
things or somebody knew beforehand.
well, it just seemed weird timing if it takes a month to get over to harvest from any major contact. How did Johnson and Byrne get there so fast after these first missing ships? You know what I mean?
Do you
Yeah,
think
so I
do you
looked
think
into.
Oni like
Mhm.
knew something was amiss
So
there beyond just incorrect?
real quick,
I mean that. Yeah, go
Maybe.
ahead.
Yeah, maybe.
We open the book chapter 1. Horn of Plenty is the first vessel to get attacked by minor transgressions, and that date read September 3rd, 2524. So it has been a few months, because at this point,
Oh wow.
I think they're in like January or February. Um,
Oh, it is January.
Yep.
Holy shit. I guess I didn't realize how wow. I
But
just
I guess for
okay.
it to fit in that timeline, somebody had to have been really preemptive in this whole thing. One freighter falling out of slip space and going silent to warrant this, sort of thing. I kind of see what you're saying, Robbie.
Well,
I didn't
did
realize it was just that far back that the first tax happened.
did Johnson get sent to harvest before or after the human frigate went offline? I thought it was, after that. And in terms of, like, travel time for you, I looked this up. There's no real math, but the way slip space currently works with the current drives that humans have capability of, your travel time varies. Like, it's not a consistent time, um, due to a number of random factors. So it actually takes less time, even though harvest is farther away from Earth, to go from Earth to harvest than I think it is to go from Earth to reach, even though reach is an inner colony. And especially from reach to harvest, I think takes a lot longer. So it has something to do with just
Mm,
how slip space tech works and how it's traveling, that like travel time, it's not very linear in terms of like true light year distance between objects.
gotcha. So it almost seems like it's kind of what's kind of safest. You know, you could strip
Yeah, exactly.
like you could go farther if you know there's a bunch of empty space maybe versus there's a couple of
Yeah, I'm not
asteroid
sure,
belts you
but
got to
yep.
go through. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's stuff to do, yeah, with again, just the current tech that they're using and how it works. So that might be why they're saying to reach Oni, which ultimately would be reach, right? It would take longer to send that communication over there, or to try to communicate back and forth that way. And why it's probably easier for, again, Johnson was on Earth to just have him get the harvest sooner than kind of like and fits in our timelines.
That makes sense.
But regardless, to
Yeah,
do
been
kind
real
of
stupid on the governor.
yeah, kind of do nothing here is kind of fucking silly. Well, it's no big deal. These alien things.
He's a Minnesotan. He doesn't want to fight unless it's hockey.
That's true.
Yeah,
Oh,
Rob,
hey,
you asked
buddy.
a little while ago, like, but Rob asked a little while ago, like, how long Mac has been here, and I don't think Harvest. I think Harvest is a very new colony. So I was flipping back through to chapter what is that 7 when they're in the ball and they like first meet Thune, the governor, and they ask him where he's from, and he says Minnesota. My mother and father's side both far back as I can remember. Most everyone around here is from the Midwest. Pulled up stakes when the soil went bad. Of course, none of us knew just how much better things would be once we got to harvest. So it sounds like he is first generation harvest.
I
So within a generation, it seems like.
I I just whipped out the Halo Encyclopedia. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually,
Oh, actually,
Actually,
Harvest in the Epsilon Indy system was established in 2468. So
Yeah. So
less than 100 years.
just over. I mean,
so maybe he's
not
like
even that. Just
maybe
like
he's
just a little over 50.
yeah.
yeah. So he could have been born there
Or he
or
could be a
born
young
on
80.
Earth, and yeah, could be. Slip space does you well on the old wrinkles there.
Yeah, we talked about that last week too, where you don't age while you're flying around in a cooler. So it's
Yeah, makes sense.
I
Meat
won't make the
cooler,
same joke. Yeah.
I there was a slight variation of that joke. So all right. Well, to keep on a timeline for tonight, good discussion so far. To keep on time tonight, let's move on to our final chapters, chapter 12. Drift in space, Dadab and lighter than some situation grows dire. Without methane reserves on board, the Grunt uses the Huragok to produce the atmosphere he needs, but neither will last very much longer. Miraculously, a Covenant ship appears and the pair are saved. Enter Maccabeus? Anyone want
I like Macabubs.
to?
Back up.
Macabubs.
All right, so enter Maccabeus and the crew of Duralhane on board the cruiser Rapid Conversion. The chieftain navigates through the dilapidated ship while the reader learns of the brute species history and hierarchy in the Covenant. Arriving in the hangar, he is then surprised and thrilled to learn that the vessel now comprises a Huragok. Perhaps the rescued pair can be of use. Again, a Covenant version of events here, but also the very first interaction with a brute. So it's also cool. What do we think?
Surprised we're getting just the whole gamut of the Covenant.
Lighter than some is just hero. He's the best bro you could ask for.
Yeah, they're buds. It's so like heartwarming.
Is it fair to say that he was sucking his farts?
Yeah, pretty much, right? Methane.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, no, dude. Lighter than some is definitely he's a good friend. He's a friend you need. We have another mention. This is now the second mention in the book of the Halo rings. We know that the Covenant know that there's 7 of them, and that their purpose was to rid the galaxy of the flood. Interesting there.
And was this the first mention of the flood that we've seen in the book or any of the content
Yeah,
yet?
actually, I believe so. We had references to the flood in the data pads, the Reach data pads,
Okay.
but straight up, they know what it is and they have a name for it. So
Yeah, and they mentioned that the flood had corrupted some of these, but it said right that I'm reading the paragraph kind of before that. I'll just read it because I thought it was interesting. It says connecting intelligent circuits was verboten, one of the Covenant's major sins. The deacon had only a layman's understanding of why this was so, but he knew the taboo had its roots in the Forerunners' long war against a prodigious parasite known as the Flood. In this war, the Forerunners had used high order, distributed intelligences to contain and combat their enemy, but somehow their strategy failed. The Flood had corrupted some of these artificial minds and turned them against their makers. Like the way that he makes that sound is it kind of sounds just like human AI that got corrupted. Like the Forerunners had their own versions of AI, like humans do, and it went bad.
right, I mean, it's interesting. I guess yeah, and that the Covenant are essentially stealing and using this Forerunner AI. But also, like you said, it can be corrupted by the flood, which I don't want to spoil, but it's a parasite, right? So
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm a little too cynical, but I was kind of thinking that the prophets kind of would say that to toward to the normal common folk that yeah, there might be the flood in this. You don't want to do anything with these
Oh,
relics. You got to give it to us first. We got to make sure it's
point.
good. You know
oh yeah.
that's kind of what my thought process on that was. That they just like, oh no, you guys don't do anything with it. Leave it to us. We'll make sure it's nice and safe.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see that.
To kind of add on to that, at the very last page of the chapter, it said that yes, the Sanshayum, aka the prophets, possess, quote, the intelligence required to create practical technologies from the relic's complex designs. But while it was blasphemy to admit it, everyone in the Covenant knew that the prophets' efforts were greatly aided by the Huragok. So, yeah, again, it might be the prophets saying, like, we need all this technology, but I think it's the Huragok that kind of understands it more. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, which is interesting, right? Because they're treated like crap. They're like, bottom of the pile, like the grunts.
Well, they're
But
disposable. I mean, they just grow more. Like, who cares, right?
yeah,
Doesn't even seem like they got carried that much. It's like, oh, there's a problem. I'm gonna fix it, and
I
it's
mean,
just their
maybe
life goal.
similar to AI that gets kind of created, right? Like they don't know any better. Um,
True.
to feel any other way.
what do we think about this dynamic of the brutes and their relationship to elites specifically?
thought it
At
was super
least
interesting. Macabubs was like so hyped to basically fly just an absolute trash heap.
Yeah, yeah, he gets the scraps and leftover like pillaged uh, freighter or vessel or whatever that the Sanghili didn't want, and he's making it work.
I thought it's this ship and the other one, minor transgressions. Both I thought were pretty ironic names for both of them. I mean, minor transgressions, we're gonna just maybe loot a little bit of relics, and it's okay if it's sinful. So- and then rapid conversion, like, seemed like it was just really hastily had all this covenant or elite technology that just ripped out of it and converted so that um, these brutes could fly it without them getting all the technology on it. So
That's
I thought these ship names are a
Oh,
little bit too on point.
on point.
I read rapid conversion more as like Macabubs saying like, "Oh, I'm on your side now. Like I'm totally a good guy.
Totally best
Like
friends.
listen to me, I'm fine.
Yeah,
Like totally best friends right now. Yeah,
yeah.
right. Like he strikes me as like a surprisingly savvy really intelligent guy despite being a brute.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
One of the smartest brutes, yeah.
Yeah, like Deadhead, genius grunt.
Hmm.
on the Macabubs, like you can tell it. They I guess in multiple points in the chapter they talk about how the brutes basically have no restraint and they're rude and aggressive and things like that. And you can tell that he strives for the ship to be very tip top sort of situation. So he definitely seems like an anomaly in terms of, as far as we know, the brute species.
Yeah, I mean, he spied that the Sangheili have weird knees and can't climb ladders, and just like shamed them. They can't climb.
Yeah, that was yeah.
Inverse knees.
Yeah, I think that this book is really well written in the way it kind of just like it jam packs these all these points and stuff into these few little chapters, but like it's got such backstory and lore and stuff that you pick up on. It's really cool. I'm enjoying it so far.
One thing I picked up that
And
I
like each
said
one of
in
these.
the. Oh, sorry, Tom.
No, go for it.
No, well, I was just going to say picking up off what you said a couple chapters earlier, Tom, mentioning the age of reclamation. I'm like, wait a minute, what was the last ring called? And it was called Reclamation. So
Oh my
if we're
god.
looking at more foreshadowing, I think we're maybe looking at something here.
To avoid a correction and actually moment, the
No.
those yeah, they kind of list off like 7 different rites or whatever you want to call it. Those I don't think were the names of the rings though. Those were just like it was like a chant or something prior to digging in on the meal. Let me try to look that up. Chapter 12.
I thought it had something to do with the rings, but that was maybe reading too much into it.
Yeah, because aren't the rings just called installations?
It says, at last, Macabub swung his arms and shifted his weight forward. He stepped slowly towards the mosaic, circular mandala, the boundary of which was dominated by 7 multicolored rings, each comprised of a different mineral. Center of each ring was a simplified version of a forerunner glyph, the sort of basic designs one might expect to see in a primer on more advanced religious concepts. Then he went into the whole chant with the 7 different things. I don't know. I thought that was what they were like naming each ring as, right? I mean, some religious
I
thing,
guess
of course, but
I mean I'd have to do some more research. It could be the name of the rings. But it also could just be forerunner. It says a forerunner glyph, or religious concept. I'll look into that actually.
yeah. And then after they're done with the chant, it says 7 rings for 7 ages. The chieftain mused to help us remember Halo and its divine light.
It's got to be connected.
I concede the floor then to Robbie's point, and I agree with you. Last point I'll throw out: Macabubs has a nephew. He sounds like a kind of officer on board or something, and that character's name is Tartarus. So I think that might be a important name to remember going forward.
Dun dun.
Anyone have anything else to say about these chapters? There's a lot of stuff we covered tonight. Good conversation. Oh, okay. With our discussion over, we switch gears to our Season 2 PvP tournament. Before we do, we need to introduce our sponsor for this evening. This episode's match is sponsored by Cat's Coffee. Bringing delicious coffee from our colony to yours. Indulge in our 5 farm-to-table blends, including the delectable brand new Deja Dark Roast. Cats is available for delivery from our web store or purchase from anywhere you find a well-needed roast of coffee. So, recap of Season 2, Match 2. Though Robbie had the match picked out, we had to proceed playing without him. Tom also out, the 4 of us played Infection on Cold Storage and Halo 3. James dominated on both sides of the disease. The resulting standings after our second match of the tournament are as follows: James with 8 points, Phil with 6, Robbie with 3, Jim with 3, Charlie with 2, Tom with 2 points. Will knows all, and our next match selection goes to Will. Fortunately, Will could not be with us tonight. Still awaiting information on his SOS, but did leave a pick for us. It says we're going to play Shotgun and Snipers Free-for-All on Lockdown and Halo 2. So I guess that's
Nice.
just Slayer with shotguns and snipers.
Yep, I can only imagine what's the dominating weapon here.
Yeah, I think
Gonna be the sticky grenade.
I know somebody that's pretty good with a sniper.
You know, I might.
Will.
Yeah, but he's not here. No. Oh.
With that said, Season 2 is the season of perpetual growth. As a reminder, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at The Great Journey Pod. We're on most major podcast platforms, and we'd greatly appreciate a comment or follow on these platforms to help boost their visibility. Tell your friends, tell your family, and tell us what you think about the show, your input on the topics we discuss, and even your ideas on how to improve or what we should cover next. We welcome you to join the journey. If you feel like supporting our show, you can also find us on Patreon at patreon.com/The Great Journey Pod. Contribution is greatly appreciated. Again, it helps to offset costs of hosting, platforms, editing, music subscriptions, and of course the media, which are all things that allow us to allow the project to keep progressing. We aspire to be an interesting, thoughtful, and fun contribution to the Halo community. As a TGJ Patreon member, you will receive a shout out live on one of our episodes, and should you choose, we will answer a question of yours on air as well. For next time, our Tear Through Contact Harvest continues, and we'll be covering chapters 13 through 17. As always, thank you for joining us this evening, and we hope to see you back here for the next installment of The Great Journey.
Great journey.
Hey, it's Will, one of your hosts here on The Great Journey. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you want to connect with us, you can find us on most podcast platforms, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at The Great Journey Pod. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so at patreon.com/The Great Journey Pod. Thank you for your listenership, and we'll hope to see you on the next chapter of The Great Journey.
Yeah, they weren't wearing their upside down pineapple shirts, so it's not, they do not come friend.
I think that's a different kind of way to communicate there, Charlie. But yeah.